The shotgun blast shattered the summer night like God's own thunderclap, echoing off the cornfields that stretched endless under the Ohio stars. Jackson's hands trembled as he lowered the barrel, the acrid smoke curling from the muzzle like a lover's dying breath. His eyes locked not on the mangled target, a rusted bucket swinging from the old oak, but on the boy, the man, standing frozen 10 paces away, his wedding tuxedo splattered with mud and regret. "You think you can just walk away from this, Noah?" Jackson's voice cracked, raw as the wound reopening in his chest. "After everything? After me?" Noah's breath hitched, the ring box slipping from his fingers into the slick grass, its velvet blooming like a bloodstain in the downpour that had chased them from the reception hall. He had come back here, to the house that built him, fleeing the sterile cheers of a marriage that felt like a noose, only to find Jackson waiting with ghosts and a gun that wasn't loaded for deer. "Uncle Jack," Noah whispered, the words tasting like ash. "I never meant to." But Jackson cut him off with a laugh that was half-sob, stepping forward until the rain plastered his shirt to the scars of a life hard-lived, the same scars that had cradled Noah through fevers and funerals. Don't you uncle me now, boy. Not after she called me a freak in my own goddamn home. Not after you let her try to steal it all." The old Victorian on Elm Street in Milford, Ohio, wasn't just a house. It was a fortress of faded wallpaper and floorboards that groaned like old men telling lies. Jackson Hale had inherited it from his parents in '98, the year the floods took half the town and all of his illusions about family. He was 32 then, broad-shouldered from years swinging a hammer on construction sites, with eyes the color of storm clouds and a smile that could coax sun from the grayest sky. But that summer, when the telegram came, "Regret to inform you, Nathan and Eliza Hale perished in auto accident en route from Cleveland," the smile cracked like the levees. Nathan was Jackson's brother, 8 years his senior, the golden boy who'd married the girl next door and skipped town for the bright lights of the city, leaving Jackson to tend the family plot alone. They hadn't spoken in months, not since Nathan's last slurred call from a payphone, begging for cash to fix things. But blood was blood, and when the social worker dropped off 5-year-old Noah at the doorstep, clutching a stuffed bear with one eye missing, Jackson didn't hesitate. He signed the papers with hands that still smelled of sawdust, traded his barstool nights for bedtime stories, and became the uncle who raised a son. Noah was a quiet kid, all wide hazel eyes and unruly chestnut curls that Jackson trimmed with kitchen shears every spring. Milford wasn't kind to single men raising boys without a mother's apron strings. Whispers followed them at the Piggly Wiggly, the kind that curled like smoke from church steeples. "Jackson's one of those, wouldn't surprise me if..." But Jackson ignored them, pouring his love into Noah like concrete into a foundation. He taught him to bait a hook in the lazy Scioto River, to change oil in the '72 Ford pickup, to whistle Dixie off-key just to make the fireflies dance. By the time Noah hit 13, the house on Elm pulsed with their rhythm. Jackson's gravelly laugh over pancakes, Noah's sneakers thumping down the stairs at dawn for school. High school brought changes, the kind that sneak up like kudzu. Noah shot up to 6'2", his frame filling out with the grace of a colt, and girls started lingering by the bleachers after football practice. Jackson watched from the sidelines, pride swelling in his chest like yeast in dough. But something else stirred too, a warmth he shoved down deep, blaming it on the summer heat. He dated sporadically, men he met at the VFW bar in Columbus, quick flings in motel rooms with neon buzz and regret. "It's just the way things are, kid," He'd tell Noah over burgers at the diner, ruffling his hair like always. World ain't built for fellas like me. But Noah saw more. He saw the way Jackson's eyes softened when they fixed the porch swing together. The unspoken ache in the letters from Nathan that arrived too late, postmarked from prisons Jackson never visited. And when Noah came out at 17, stammering it over cold meatloaf one autumn night, his face flushed as a fever, Jackson didn't blink. He pulled the boy into a bear hug that smelled of motor oil and Old Spice, murmuring, "Ain't nothing changed, son. You're mine, freak or not." They laughed then, the word freak, a shield they threw at the world together, but it lodged in Jackson like buckshot. College took Noah to Ohio State, 3 hours east, where he majored in business and minored in heartbreak. Jackson drove him up in the Ford, the bed loaded with dorm crap and unspoken fears. "Call me every Sunday," Jackson growled, clapping Noah's shoulder too hard. "And don't let those city boys turn your head." Noah grinned, but as the taillights faded in the rearview, he felt the house on Elm echo emptier than a drum. 4 years blurred by in video calls and holiday halls. Thanksgiving turkeys charred at the edges, Christmas trees strung with lights older than Noah himself. Jackson threw himself into renovations, turning the attic into a man cave with a mini fridge stocked with IPAs and a flat screen for Buckeye games. He dated a guy named Rick for a spell, a mechanic from Dayton with tattoos like road maps, but it fizzled when Rick called the house quaint one too many times. "Too many ghosts," Rick said, packing his duffel. Jackson didn't argue. The ghosts were his to keep. Noah graduated with honors, landed a job at a real estate firm in Cincinnati, and started climbing the ladder with the single-minded focus Jackson had drilled into him. Weekends brought him home, the Ford's engine rumbling up the drive like a heartbeat. They'd grill steaks on the back porch, the old oak tree shading them like a sentinel, its branches twisted from storms that had battered Milford since the Civil War. Beers loosened tongues, and stories flowed. Noah's disastrous blind dates with women who mistook his politeness for interest. Jackson's latest feud with the HOA over his unmowed lawn. "You're the only one who gets it, Uncle Jack," Noah said one night, stars pricking the sky like needlepoints. Jackson clinked his bottle against Noah's, hiding the flutter in his gut behind a grin. "Damn right, kid. Damn right." Then came Lila. She was all polished edges and power suits, a junior associate at Noah's firm with hair like polished mahogany and a laugh that tinkled like champagne flutes. They met at a networking mixer, her hand cool and confident in his, and Noah fell hard or thought he did. "She's amazing, Jack," he gushed over FaceTime, showing off a selfie of them at a Reds game, her arm looped through his. Jackson forced a smile, the screen blurring a little from the whiskey he'd chased with. "She treat you right?" Noah nodded, eyes bright. "Better than right. We're talking future here." The engagement hit like a freight train 6 months later. Noah drove home with the ring in his pocket, a modest diamond that caught the dashboard lights like a promise. Jackson was elbow-deep in plumbing when Noah burst through the kitchen door, grabbing him in a whoop that rattled the cabinets. "Holy shit, son, that's..." Jackson's voice caught, pride and something sharper twisting in his ribs. He clapped Noah's back, pulling out the good bourbon from the pantry. "To the happy couple. May she know what a lucky bastard she is." The wedding planning swallowed them whole. Lila swept into the house like a summer squall, her heels clicking on the hardwood as she critiqued the floral arrangements and the guest list. "It's so rustic," she said of the Victorian, her nose wrinkling at the exposed beams. Jackson had sanded himself. He bit his tongue, pouring coffee strong enough to strip paint, but the barbs piled up. Noah says you raised him single-handed. Admirable. Really. But have you thought about assisted living? This place is falling apart. Jackson laughed it off at first, chalking it up to city polish. But the digs deepened. One afternoon, while Noah was at a tux fitting, Lila cornered him in the study, flipping through old photo albums with manicured nails. "These are sweet," she cooed, then paused on a snapshot of Jackson and Noah at the county fair, arms slung around each other, cotton candy smeared on their grins. Her eyes narrowed, a smile that didn't reach them. "You two are so close. Almost unnatural." No wonder Noah turned out the way he did. The word hung there, unnatural, but Jackson felt the freak unspoken behind it. He closed the album with a snap, his voice steady as rebar. "Noah turned out just fine. Ms. Hargrove. Better than fine." She shrugged, standing with a rustle of silk. "Call me Lila. And for the record, after we're married, this house, it's equity waiting to happen. Noah deserves a fresh start, not this mausoleum." That night, Jackson sat on the porch swing, the oak's leaves whispering secrets in the wind, nursing a beer until it warmed in his hand. Noah came home late, reeking of Lila's perfume and takeout Thai, collapsing beside him with a sigh. "She's stressed, man. The venue's double-booked." Jackson nodded, staring at the fireflies winking like lost signals. "Stressed or not, she don't get to talk about this place like it's trash." Noah tensed, then softened, leaning his head on Jackson's shoulder like he had as a boy. "I know. I'll talk to her." The weight of Noah's warmth seeped through Jackson's shirt, stirring that buried heat, and for a heartbeat, Jackson let himself imagine it, let himself want. Then he pulled away, clearing his throat. "Get some sleep, groom. Big day tomorrow." The rehearsal dinner was a blur of small-town faces crammed into the Elks Lodge. Cousins Jackson hadn't seen since diapers, aunts with casseroles and condolences for Nathan's ghost. Lila shone, toasting to new beginnings, her glass catching the chandelier light. But as the plates cleared, she pulled Noah aside, her voice carrying like a scalpel. "Tell your uncle to tone down the brooding. It's off-putting." Jackson overheard from the bar, his knuckles whitening around a highball. "Off-putting. Freak." The words fused in his gut like lead. Noah found him later, slipping out to the parking lot where the Ford hunkered like a faithful dog. "Jack, what's eating you?" Jackson lit a cigarette, the flame flaring his lined face. "Nothing a man can't handle. Just be happy, kid. That's all I ever wanted." Noah searched his eyes, the air thick with unspoken summers, then hugged him fierce, the kind of embrace that blurred lines. "I am. Because of you." Jackson held on a beat too long, the oak's shadow stretching long across the gravel, before letting go. The wedding day dawned muggy, the sky bruised with thunderheads. Jackson stood in the groom's room at the church, adjusting Noah's bow tie with fingers that shook like leaves. "You clean up nice," he muttered, voice gruff. Noah grinned, but his eyes held a flicker, doubt, desire. "Thanks to you, old man." They laughed, the sound hollow against the organ's warm-up wheeze. As Noah walked the aisle, Jackson slipped into a pew at the back, the stained glass painting him in fractured reds and blues. Lila waited, ethereal in lace, but when her eyes met his over the vows, there was no warmth, only calculation. "This house is mine now," her gaze said, "and so is he." The reception roared at the Milford Country Club, a tented affair with fairy lights and a band playing Sweet Caroline. Jackson nursed a whiskey at the edge, watching Noah whirl Lila across the floor, her gown a white flag of surrender. But midway through the chicken dance, Lila detached, gliding to Jackson's table with a flute in hand. A word. She didn't wait, steering him to the shadowed patio, the oak visible in the distance like a sentinel gone dark. "You're a problem," she said flatly, the champagne bubbling like venom. "Noah clings to you like a security blanket. It's pathetic. And that house, it's leverage. We'll sell it, start fresh in the city. You can buy a condo or whatever freaks like you do." Jackson's blood iced, the word landing like a slap. "Freaks?" he echoed, low and lethal. "Lady, you don't know the half of what built that boy you think you own." She laughed, sharp as glass. "Built? You mollycoddled him. No wonder he's so conflicted. Sign the deed over quietly, or I'll make sure everyone knows what a pervert uncle you've been." The threat hung, perfumed and poisonous, and Jackson felt the world tilt. The house, the oak, Noah all slipping like sand. He stumbled back inside, the music mocking him, and that's when Noah caught his eye across the room, concern creasing his brow. Jackson bolted, the Ford's keys jangling in his fist, tearing out into the storm that broke just as he hit Elm Street. The rain lashed the windshield like accusations, thunder rumbling in his chest as he loaded the shotgun. Not for harm, but for the roar of it, the catharsis. He fired into the bucket on the oak, the blast a scream for all he'd buried, and waited for the ghosts to answer. Noah's truck crunched gravel an hour later, headlights cutting the deluge. He found Jackson on the porch, soaked and spent, the gun across his lap like a fallen flag. "What the hell, Jack?" Noah yelled over the gale, tucks ruined, heart laid bare. Jackson looked up, rain tracing the lines of a love too long denied. "She called me a freak, Noah. Said she'd take it all. The house. You. Everything." Noah sank beside him, the swing creaking under their weight, his hand finding Jackson's in the dark. "I heard. I ended it. Right there, in front of God and the cake." Silence stretched, broken only by the storm's fury, until Noah's voice cracked. "It's always been you. I was just too scared to say it." Jackson's breath caught, the world narrowing to that touch, that confession. He turned, cupping Noah's face, thumbs brushing away rain that tasted of salt. "Son, not your son," Noah whispered, leaning in, lips brushing tentative, electric. "You're everything." The kiss ignited like dry tinder, years of longing pouring out in the downpour. Fierce, forgiving, forbidden no more. Jackson pulled him close, the oak witnessing as lightning forked the sky, illuminating the truth they'd both known since the first shared sunrise. The storm raged on through midnight, turning Milford's streets into rivers of regret. But inside the Victorian, the air hummed with a different electricity. Jackson and Noah stumbled through the door, shedding sodden clothes like old skins, the shotgun left propped against the oak like a discarded crutch. Water pooled on the Persian rug in the foyer. The one Jackson's mother had knotted by hand, but neither noticed. Noah's fingers fumbled with Jackson's belt, urgent and unpracticed, while Jackson's hands, calloused from decades of building, traced the planes of Noah's back with reverence, as if memorizing a blueprint long dreamed. "Wait!" Jackson murmured against Noah's neck, the word a gravelly plea as they collapsed onto the living room sofa, its springs protesting like forgotten lovers. Noah stilled, hazel eyes searching in the lamplight's glow, his chest heaving. "You having second thoughts?" There was fear there, raw as the storm outside, the kind that came from years of half-truths and hidden glances. Jackson shook his head, threading fingers through Noah's damp curls, pulling him closer until foreheads touched. "Not second. First time seeing clear." He kissed Noah slow then, deliberate, tasting the bourbon from the reception and the salt of tears neither admitted to. It wasn't the frantic fumble of youth. It was the deepening of roots, the oak's branches intertwining after a lifetime bent apart. Noah melted into it, a soft moan escaping as Jackson's lips trailed to his collarbone, mapping scars from childhood scrapes. Noah's knee from the time he fell chasing fireflies, the faint line on his ribs from a bike crash Jackson had bandaged with whiskey and worry. They moved upstairs in a tangle, the banister cool against heated skin, the master bedroom a sanctuary Jackson had claimed after his parents passed. The four-poster bed, carved walnut from a bygone era, welcomed them like an old friend. Noah hesitated at the threshold, the weight of uncle lingering like fog. This is not wrong, is it?" His voice was small, the boy peeking through the man. Jackson cupped his jaw, eyes fierce. "World says it is. Milford, Lila, all those Bible thumpers at the lodge. But this house, this heart." He thumped his chest, the thud echoing Noah's own. "It says you're home." Noah's laugh was watery, relieved, and he pushed Jackson back onto the quilts, straddling him with a boldness that stole breath. Clothes vanished in whispers of fabric, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces warped by time but fitting still. In the quiet after, as rain tapped a lullaby on the window panes, they lay entwined, Noah's head on Jackson's chest, listening to the steady drum that had lulled him through nightmares. "I loved her, you know," Noah said into the dark, tracing the silver hairs dusting Jackson's sternum. "Or thought I did. She was safe. Normal." Jackson's arm tightened, a reflex against the chill creeping in. "Normal's overrated, kid. Tastes like sawdust." He paused, the confession heavy on his tongue. "I waited. God help me, I waited for you to choose your own path. Never dreamed it'd loop back here." Noah lifted his head, eyes gleaming. "It always was here. That night I came out, you hugged me like I was still whole. No one else did that." He kissed Jackson's jaw, soft as dawn. "Lila. She saw it. That's why she hated you. Called you the freak to hide her own cracks." The word stung anew, but Jackson let it pass, focusing on the warmth blooming between them. They talked then, words spilling like the river after flood, about Nathan's letters, yellowed in the attic, begging forgiveness Jackson never sent, about the men Jackson loved in shadows, fleeting as mill dust, about Noah's college hookups, boys who vanished at sunrise, leaving him hollow. Dawn crept in with the scent of wet earth, and they made love again, slower, learning the language of skin and sigh. But morning brought the reckoning. Noah's phone buzzed relentless on the nightstand, Lila's name flashing like a siren. He silenced it, But the damage seeped, voicemails turning to texts, then calls from her father, a Cincinnati lawyer with a voice like oiled steel. Mr. Hale, this is Harlan Hargrove. My daughter's distraught. You owe us an explanation. Jackson brewed coffee strong as tar, handing Noah a mug with a wry grin. Tell them the truth. Groom ran off with the best man. Noah snorted, but tension coiled in his shoulders as he dressed. The tux pants crumpled on the floor, a reminder of vows broken. I gotta go back, Jack. Face it. But I'll be home tonight. Home. The word wrapped around Jackson like flannel, warm and worn. He nodded, watching Noah lace his boots. Drive safe. And Noah, their eyes met, promise unspoken. Yeah, don't let her twist this. You're not her pawn. Noah leaned in for a kiss. Brief but branding, then was gone. The Ford's rumble fading into birdsong. The day stretched empty, Jackson tinkering in the garage, the air thick with oil and ozone. He sanded the porch railing, each stroke a meditation, replaying the night's revelations. Love like theirs wasn't scripted in Hallmark cards. It was forged in the quiet rebellions of shared suppers, the way Noah's laugh still lit the kitchen like July 4th. But doubt gnawed. Lila's threat about the house, the deed she'd eyed like a vulture. The Victorian was more than bricks. It was Nathan's ghost, his parents' echoes, the soil where Jackson had planted Noah's first tomato seeds. Lose it, and what was left? By noon, the town buzzed. Milford thrived on gossip faster than corn grew, and the wedding flop was prime harvest. Mrs. Delaney from the bakery knocked with a condolence pie, her eyes sharp as she pumped Jackson for dirt. Heard the boys gone queer again. After all you did, Jackson shut the door with a polite, bless your heart. The southernism he'd picked up from a summer job in Georgia. But inside, fury simmered. Queer. Freak. Labels like shackles. Noah called at 3, voice tight over speaker. Lila's lawyered up. Says I breached contract. Can you believe that shit? Prenup was ironclad. But she's gunning for the house as marital asset, since we discussed it. Jackson's grip whitened on the phone. Over my dead body. That place is mine. Free and clear. I know. But her dad's pulling strings. Threatening to out you us to the firm, the town. Says it'll ruin my career. Noah's breath hitched. I don't care about the job, Jack. But you. This life. Jackson's heart clenched. The oak visible through the window, its leaves trembling in the breeze. We'll fight it. Together. Come home, Noah. We'll figure the rest. The drive back was hell. Cincinnati traffic, a snarl of horns and exhaust. Noah's mind replaying the church scene. Lila's face crumpling as he whispered, I can't, and bolted, the bouquet scattering like shrapnel. Her screams followed. You're broken, because of him. But he didn't stop. Tires screeching toward the only truth he knew. Dusk painted the sky bruised when he pulled up, the house glowing like a beacon. Jackson waited on the porch. Flannel fresh, a six-pack chilling in the swing. Brought reinforcements, he said, popping a top. Noah collapsed beside him, exhaustion etching his face. It's bad. Harlan's filing for annulment, but with a side of defamation. Claims I led her on. That you influenced me. Jackson's jaw ticked. Influenced? Hell. I raised you to think for yourself. He handed Noah the beer, their fingers brushing, igniting sparks. What now? Noah set the bottle down, turning to face him fully, the sunset gilding his features. Now, we live it. No hiding. He kissed Jackson then, public as the oak. The neighborhood's prying eyes be damned. It was declaration and defiance, lips claiming what hearts had long held. But as night fell, Lila's car idled at the curb, headlights piercing the dark like accusations. She didn't approach, just watched, a silhouette of scorn, before peeling away. The threat lingered, a shadow on their fragile dawn. Inside, over reheated lasagna, they planned lawyers in Columbus, a will update naming Noah beneficiary. Laughter crept in, tentative, as Jackson recounted Harlan's voicemail bluster, mimicking the lawyer's twang. Thinks he's Atticus Finch. That one. Noah's grin widened, the tension easing like a knot undone. In bed, bodies entwined again, they explored unhurried, whispers weaving futures, trips to the Grand Canyon, a garden expanded under the oak. Sleep came deep, but morning shattered it. A knock, official, insistent. Harlan Hargrove stood on the stoop, papers in hand, Lila's absence a calculated wound. Notice of lease pendens, he intoned, slapping the document against Jackson's chest. Cloud on title. Your house is collateral until this sorts. Jackson scanned the legalese, rage boiling. This is extortion, Harlan smirked. Call it justice. For the freak who poisoned my daughter's future. Noah appeared then, shirtless and furious, shoving between them. Get off our property. The word landed like a gauntlet. Harlan's eyes raked Noah, pitying. Come to your senses, son. Before you lose everything. He retreated to his sedan, but the papers burned in Jackson's fist. The fight was on. The lease pendens hit Milford like a nor'easter, whipping whispers into gales that bent every mailbox on Elm Street. By breakfast, the Piggly Wiggly checkout lines buzzed with it. Hale boys jilted the bride for his uncle. Pervert Central. Jackson burned the notice in the kitchen sink. The flames licking legalese like vindication, but the smoke curled accusatory, staining the air. Noah paced the linoleum, phone glued to his ear, arguing with a firm partner who'd gone radio silent. It's personal, not professional, he insisted, but the line went dead, another bridge torched. Jackson watched from the table, coffee mug steaming like his temper. Let 'em hang. We'll start fresh. But fresh meant what? The house was their anchor, its walls papered with memories. Crayon murals from Noah's kindergarten phase, the dent in the door from Jackson's roid rage phase after a bar fight gone wrong. Lose it, and they were adrift, two men against a town that saw them as sin made flesh. They drove to Columbus that afternoon, the Ford eating miles under a sky-spitting drizzle. The lawyer, a wiry woman named Tessa Ruiz with a buzzcut and a rainbow flag pin, met them in a corner office overlooking the Olentangy River. Harlan Hargrove's a shark, she said, flipping through the file. But this claim's flimsy, no marital asset without marriage consummated. An annulment's a slam dunk. The influence angle? Defamation bait. But it'll cost to litigate. Noah leaned forward, elbows on knees. How much? Tessa quoted figures that made Jackson's gut twist. 5 figures. Easy. We got savings, he grunted. But Noah's hand on his knee steadied the lie. The firm had put him on leave, pending review, and Jackson's construction gigs had dried up with the recession whispers. Emotional damages, Tessa continued, I softening. Lila's painting you as the villain. Jackson, the creepy uncle corrupting the nephew. Small-town juries eat that up. Noah's face paled, but Jackson's jaw set like concrete. Let him try. I've got nothing to hide. They left with homework. Affidavits from old neighbors. Financials scrubbed clean. On the drive home, silence stretched, broken only by the wiper's metronome. Noah's hand crept to Jackson's thigh, a silent anchor. We'll beat this. Jackson covered it with his own, rough palm over smooth. Damn straight. But if we lose, you won't. Noah's voice fierce. This house is us. Milford welcomed them with stares. Mrs. Delaney's pie turned to side-eye at the stoplight. The mechanic at the Exxon pumping gas slow as molasses while craning for a look. Jackson flipped him off through the window, earning a honk from the car behind. Home. The oak drooped under fresh rain, its roots mirroring the tangle in Jackson's chest. That night, they cooked Jackson's chili, spicy enough to sweat out sins. Noah chopping onions with tears that weren't from the blade. Over bowls steaming at the harvest table, talk turned tender. Remember the flood of '05? Noah said, wiping his eyes. You carried me to the attic, told stories about pirates till the water receded. Jackson chuckled. Lo. You peed the bed halfway through. Thought it was the river rising. Noah's laugh bubbled, easing the knot. Hero to zero, their feet tangled under the table, a casual intimacy that felt revolutionary. Later, in the den with the fire crackling, Noah pulled out the old photo albums, the ones Lila had sneered at. They pored over them, fingers tracing timelines. Noah's first fish, gap-toothed grin. Jackson at 40, lifting weights in the yard, muscles corded like ropes. You were hot, Noah teased, heat in his gaze. Still am, Jackson growled, tugging him onto the rug. The firelight danced on their skin as they undressed, slow as unwrapping gifts. Noah's body, lean from gym runs, pressed against Jackson's solid frame. A study in contrasts, youth's fire meeting age's embers. They moved with the rhythm of the flames, gasps syncing with pops of sap. Jackson's whispers guiding. Here? Like that. Noah arched, lost in sensation, the world narrowing to touch and taste. After, sated and sticky, they lay with the album open on Noah's chest. I want this forever, Noah murmured, tracing Jackson's knuckles. No more pretending. Jackson kissed his temple, the vow unspoken but sealed. But forever cracked at dawn. A process server banged the door. Harlan's second salvo. A civil suit for alienation of affection. Lila's tear-streaked deposition attached. Jackson Hale groomed my fiancé from childhood, turning him against me. He's a predator, hiding behind family. The words clawed, drawing blood. Noah crumpled it, eyes blazing. Lies. Jackson pulled him close, but the damage seeped doubt, that insidious weed. What if she's right? What if I did? Push. Noah cupped his face, fierce. You saved me. Loved me. That's not predation. That's grace. They kissed to banish the shadow, but it lingered, a specter in the corners. The week blurred into war. Tessa filed counters, subpoenas flying like confetti at a funeral. Noah job hunted, virtual interviews where he dodged the elephant. Why the leave? Jackson took side gigs, fencing for farms, his hammer swinging harder, each nail a fuck you to Harlan. Town turned hostile. Eggs on the porch. Freak scrawled in the Ford's dust. One night, after a barstool brawl with a cousin who'd called Noah tainted, Jackson came home split-lipped, knuckles raw. Noah cleaned him up in the bathroom, peroxide fizzing like anger. This has to stop, Jackson winced, catching his hand. Ain't stopping till they back off. But Noah's eyes held fear, not for bruises, but fractures. I can't lose you to this. They made love in the tub, water sloshing over edges, bodies slick and desperate. Jackson held Noah after, murmuring promises against his hair. We'll run if we have to. California, maybe. Beaches and no judgments. Noah stirred, tracing the lease pendant scar on Jackson's soul. No running. This is our ground. The hearing loomed, a county courthouse date circled in red. Lila's camp escalated. Anonymous posts on the Milford Facebook group doctored pics of Jackson from his wilder days, shirtless and smirking at a pride rally in '09. Pedo alert, the caption screamed. Noah's inbox flooded, old friends unfriending, his college roommate texting, dude, WTF? Isolation tightened like a noose. They found solace in routines. Morning coffee on the swing, Noah's head on Jackson's lap, evenings under the oak, blankets and stargazing, fingers laced as constellations wheeled. Orion's belt, Noah pointed one night, voice soft. Holds the hunter steady. Jackson squeezed his hand. Like you hold me. But the night before court, Lila struck low. She showed unannounced, heels sinking in the lawn, a bottle of wine as false olive branch. Noah, please. One talk. Jackson barred the door, but Noah, ever the fixer, stepped out. Jackson watched from the window, heart pounding as words flew. Lila's sobs, Noah's pleas for peace. She left with a parting shot, loud enough to carry. He's using you. That freak will drag you down. Noah stormed in, slamming the door. But the seed planted. Vulnerability in Jackson's eyes. A flicker of maybe. They didn't speak of it. Falling into bed with frantic need. Bodies colliding like storms. But sleep evaded. Ghosts whispering wrong. 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 Court day dawned crisp. Leaves turning underfoot like pages. The Victorians stood sentinel as they dressed. Jackson in his best button-down. Noah in slacks that hung looser from stress. We got this, Noah said, kissing Jackson deep, tasting fear and fortitude. The drive was silent, the courthouse a squat brick beast in the town square. Inside, the air reeked of polish and pretense. Harlan smirking from the plaintiff's table. Lila absent but her perfume lingering in the ether. Tessa argued sharp. Baseless claims. Your Honor. Slander to mask a failed union. Harlan countered venomous. Exhibit A. The defendant's unnatural hold. Texts. Photos. A lifetime of manipulation. The judge. A grizzled vet named Harlan. Irony's cruel joke. Peered over specs. The gallery murmuring like bees. Jackson testified first. Voice steady as he recounted raising Noah. Floods. First steps. The love that bridged blood. He's my family. End of story. But cross-exam twisted. Isn't it true, Mr. Hale? You've engaged in homosexual relations under this roof? Exposed the boy to deviance. Objection overruled. Jackson's yes hung heavy. The word a noose. Noah's turn broke him. "Jackson's my rock," he said, eyes on Jackson across the room. Lila knew that, hated it. "This suits revenge, not justice." Harlan pounced. "You call running from your bride love? Or was it panic from realizing your perversion?" The gavel cracked recess, the room spinning. In the hall, Jackson pulled Noah into a stairwell, kissing him fierce, defiant. Truth wins, but doubt shadowed, Lila's echo loud. Verdict came swift. Lease pendants lifted, suit dismissed for lack of merit. Cheers from Tessa, hugs from Noah, but Harlan's glare promised appeals. "This ain't over," he hissed. Driving home, euphoria mixed with dread. The oak welcomed them, branches a canopy of fragile peace. That night, they celebrated steaks on the grill, beers under stars. Laughter flowed, but as they made love on the porch swing, Jackson's touch held hesitation, the court's poison seeping. In the afterglow, Noah whispered, "I choose you." Always, Jackson held him tighter, praying it was enough. But dawn brought Harlan's appeal filing, the war far from won. The appeal hit like a sucker punch, Harlan's motion landing in Tessa's inbox before the ink dried on victory. "He's desperate," she said over speakerphone, her Columbus office a lifeline across the miles. Dragging it to state court, costs triple, timeline doubles. "But we can motion to dismiss on residential judicata." Jackson grunted from the kitchen, flipping eggs with more force than needed, the sizzle masking his curse. Noah, nursing coffee at the table, rubbed temples where migraines bloomed like weeds. "What's the play?" "Stall and settle," Tessa advised. "Lila wants the house. Offer a buyout. Lowball it." Emotional tolls high. The call ended with bill estimates that climbed like kudzu, and Jackson slammed the spatula down. "Settle? Over my corpse." Noah's hand found his, steadying. "We fight smart, not stubborn." But the wear showed. Dark circles under Noah's eyes from sleepless audits of their joint accounts. Jackson's shoulders hunched from midnight sanding sessions that smoothed wood but not nerves. Milford's siege intensified. The Journal ran a veiled op-ed, "Family Values Under Siege," with Harlan's fingerprints smudged on the byline. Protests flickered. A prayer vigil on the lawn at midnight, crosses glowing like accusations, chants of repent, fading with the fireflies. Jackson met them with the porch light blazing, shotgun unloaded but visible, a silhouette of resolve. Noah filmed it all, posting to a burner TikTok, "Love is love. Back off." Views spiked, comments a hydra of hate and hidden hearts. Finally, Ohio gets real, from a queer kid in Akron. "Burn the house," from Anonymous. Support trickled too. A care package from Tessa's network, rainbow teas and lube with a note, "For the long haul." Old VFW buddies called, gravelly voices offering loans or fists. Even Mrs. Delaney thawed, slipping muffins with a whisper, "Lost my boy to AIDS in '92. Y'all ain't freaks, your family." But Lila's shadow loomed largest. She escalated via proxy, HR at Noah's firm leaking his instability, blackballing interviews. One night, a brick through the window, fags out etched in red. Glass shattered like trust, shards glittering on the den floor. Noah swept while Jackson boarded, their silence heavy as the plywood. In bed, anger transmuted to urgency. Noah straddled Jackson, hips grinding with purpose, nails raking backs as if to mark territory. Mine, he gasped, Jackson's thrusts meeting like thunder. Climax crashed, leaving them wrecked, sweat-slick and spent. No one's taking this, Jackson murmured, arm-banding Noah's waist. But sleep brought dreams, the oaks splintering in gale, roots unearthed. Weekends became refuges. They escaped to the Scioto, fishing poles and cooler, the river's murmur a balm. Noah cast lines with boyish focus, Jackson baiting hooks with stories of Nathan. He was wild. Your dad stole the mayor's pig for a prank. Laughter burbled, but undercurrents pulled. Think he'd approve of us? Noah asked, reeling in a perch. Jackson pondered, line taut. Blood's thick, but love's thicker. He'd want you happy. The fish flopped silver on the bank. And so did truths. Jackson's fear of aging out. Noah's ache for normalcy. A wedding of their own. Rings without recoil. Back home, the garden called. Under the oak, they planted tomatoes for Noah's favorites, herbs for Jackson's chili. Dirt under nails grounded them, knees brushing in the furrows. This is legacy, Noah said, patting soil. Jackson nodded, but the deed's shadow loomed, papers yellowing in the study drawer. Harlan's deposition demand arrived mid-July, heat wave baking Milford to cracked earth. Lila testified remote, her video feed polished, tears artful. He isolated Noah, fed him lies about me. That house is tainted, sell it, give us peace. Cross burned her. Prenup clauses favoring her assets. Texts plotting the equity grab pre-proposal. She crumbled, but the jury pool state level. Urban Mix would judge. Tessa prepped them relentless. Mock Q and as in the living room. Jackson stumbling over relationship timeline. We evolved, he said, cheeks flushing. Noah squeezed his knee. It's okay. Truth's our weapon, but cracks spiderwebbed. Noah landed a freelance gig, remote consulting for a queer-owned startup in Seattle, but it meant late nights, screens glowing blue. Jackson felt the drift, cooking solo, the table echoing. One argument erupted over dishes. You're pulling away, Jackson accused, suds foaming. Noah snapped. I'm providing. For us. Words escalated, selfish. Scared until Noah stormed out, slamming to the oak. Jackson followed, finding him slumped against the trunk, face wet. Sorry, Noah choked. It's just pressure. Jackson knelt, pulling him into the root's embrace. We're in the trench, kid. Together, the kiss started apology, turned absolution, bark rough against backs as they yielded to the earth, bodies merging under leaves cathedral. Renewed, they pushed. Community rallied. A GoFundMe from the VFW, Hale's stand, surging past goals with notes from one vet to another, hold the line. Noah's post went viral. Shares from influencers. Podcast invite. Love after legacy. Recording in the garage. Mike's catching raw. Jackson's gravel on loss. Noah's fire on choice. Listens poured. Donations doubled. Lila countered vicious. Leaked voicemails. Jackson's post-breakup rants from years back. Slurred and sorry. Wish I could fix him, but he's mine. Context twisted to grooming. Headlines screaming uncle's obsession exposed. Protests swelled. Counter-rallies forming. Rainbow flags on Elm. Locals linking arms. The night before trial. Fear peaked. They walked the property, oak's girth a compass. If we lose, Noah said, voice small, we rebuild. Jackson halted, turning him. Won't lose. But if you'd follow me anywhere. Noah's yes was fierce, sealed with a vow under branches. Rings imagined, simple bands of promise. Court convened in Cleveland, a gleaming hall far from Milford's grit. Gallery packed, supporters in tees, Harlan's suits stone-faced. Lila testified live, eyes red-rimmed, voice quavering. He stole my future, but Tessa dismantled. Financial trails showing her pre-wedding house scouts, emails to realtors. Jackson's stand was legend. I raised that boy when blood failed. Loved him as kin, then as man. Ain't theft, it's truth. Tears tracked his cheeks. The room hushed. Noah followed, unflinching. Lila chased assets, not me. Jackson's my heart. Deliberation dragged days, the weight of ice. Back in Milford, they holed up, making love like talismans. Slow mornings in sun-dappled sheets, urgent afternoons against the oak. Whatever comes, Jackson breathed. You're my win. Verdict dropped like rain. Full dismissal. Sanctions on Harlan for frivolous suit. Cheers erupted. Hugs crushing. Tessa popping champagne in the hall. Lila fled. Defeated. Her glare daggers. Homecoming was triumph. Bonfire under the oak. Locals toasting with coolers and stories. Jackson and Noah danced slow. World fading to two. But victory's afterglow hid thorns. Noah's freelance bloomed to offer, relocate to Seattle? Jackson's gut twisted. The house a tether. Think on it, he said, but doubt seeded. As embers died, they lay in the grass, stars above. Ours, Noah whispered. Jackson held him, praying roots held fast. Autumn gilded Milford in golds and crimsons. The oak's leaves a fiery crown against skies turning crisp. The lawsuit's dust settled like frost. Harlan's appeals quashed by higher courts weary of his vendetta. Lila vanishing to a condo in Dayton with a settlement that bought silence but not absolution. The house on Elm stood unbowed. Its Victorian bones reinforced by new storm windows. Jackson installed himself, each pane a pane of peace. But victories, like harvests, demanded tending, and the offer from Seattle gnawed at the edges of their idol. Noah broached it over pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving, the table laden with turkey and kin, distant cousins thawed by time. Tessa flown in with her partner, a soft-spoken librarian named May. Laughter rang as stories swapped. The brick incident turned punchline, the vigil now a block party staple. But under the clink of forks, Noah's eyes sought Jackson's, the question unspoken but heavy as the bird's carcass. Later, dishes done, they slipped to the porch, breath fogging in the chill. The oak loomed, half bare, branches etching constellations. It's a promotion, Noah said, handing Jackson a cider. 6 figures, equity in the company. Queer-friendly, big city, no stairs at the Piggly. Jackson sipped, the tart bite mirroring his mood. Sounds like escape. Noah leaned on the rail, curls frosted with rhyme. Not escape. Growth. For us. The word bridged, but Jackson saw the fork. Roots or wings. This place is growth too. The garden's thriving. Your tomatoes won blue at the fair. Noah's laugh warmed the cold. Blue ribbon love. But Jack, we're 40 and 50, not 80. Adventure calls. Sleep that night was fitful, bodies curling close but minds adrift. Jackson dreamed of floods, the house submerging while Noah swam free, woke with Noah's murmur. Stay, unsure if plea or prophecy. Winter blanketed Milford in white, the oak a skeletal guardian dusted snow. Noah deferred the offer, buying time with virtual pitches, but emails pinged relentless, decision by New Year's. Jackson threw himself into projects, attic conversion to guest suite, envisioning Tessa's visits, a treehouse rebuild in the oak's lower limbs, nostalgic nod to Noah's boyhood. Holidays healed. Christmas Eve. They strung lights on the Victorian, the glow chasing shadows. Under the tree, gifts wrapped humble. Jackson's leather journal for Noah's poetry scribbles, Noah's custom flannel monogrammed Hail Heart. Mistletoe hung rogue in doorways, kisses lingering, hands wandering to bedroom carols, slow, savoring, the creak of bedposts a hymn. New Year's dawn decisions. They drove to the river, Ford crunching ice-rimed roads, thermos of cocoa steaming. On the frozen bank, bundled in quilts, Noah laid it bare. I want Seattle. Fresh starts. Pride parades without pitchforks. But not without you. Jackson stared at the Scioto's sluggish flow. Ice flows like fragmented vows. What if I can't leave? This soil's in my bones. Your dad's. My folks. Noah's glove cupped his cheek. Thawing frost. Then we compromise. Summer's here. Winter's there. Or sell. Build new under redwoods. Sell. The word clawed, but Noah's eyes held oceans, not abandonment. Jackson pulled him close, lips brushing through wool. You're my adventure, kid. Always were. The call to Seattle came post-Eve. Noah's voice steady. We're in but hybrid. Ohio base. Quarterly flights. Jubilation echoed. The recruiter gushing progressive choice. Back home, they celebrated under the oak. Blanket fort against wind. Champagne fizzing as they made promises. Vows whispered. Rings ordered online. Simple gold bands etched roots and wings. Spring unfurled gentle. The oak budding green as absolution. The wedding was small. Backyard affair under its boughs. Tessa officiating in rainbow stole. May snapping photos. A dozen locals bearing witness, Mrs. Delaney with pie. VFW vets in kilts. Noah in linen suit. Jackson in flannel crisp. They exchanged rings with hands that trembled like leaves. I choose you, Noah said, voice carrying on breeze. Past. Present. Forever. Jackson's response choked. My son. My love. My home. Vows sealed with kiss. Cheers rising. The oak rustling approval. Reception flowed. Chili and IPAs. Band from the lodge playing Ohio slow. Dances blurred. Jackson twirling Noah. Dips that drew whoops. Toasts from Tessa. To freaks who found family. As stars pricked. Guests faded. Leaving the couple swaying to crickets. Happy, Jackson murmured. Chin on Noah's crown. Noah nodded. Band glinting. Ecstatic. You, like winning the flood. They made love in the grass. Oak sentinel. Bodies arching under moon. Climax a quiet thunder. Years wove on. Seasons cycling. Seattle summers brought beaches and bistros. Noah's career blooming. Jackson consulting remote on Renos. Winter's rooted elm. Garden expanding, orchard under oak. Apples crisp as first bites. Challenges came. Jackson's knee. Surgery under Noah's vigil. Noah's burnout, eased by river casts. But love deepened, weathered as the house. Conversations turning profound. Legacy. What to pass. Adoption talks. Fostering dreams. One autumn, as leaves fell gold, they sat swing-swaying, hands laced over rings worn smooth. Milford had softened, pride flags on porches, the journal running their op-ed, love's long shadow. Lila's ghost faded, remarried quiet, a Christmas card arriving once. Peace. The oak, ancient now, shed acorns like blessings. Think it'll outlast us? Noah mused, head on Jackson's shoulder. Jackson kissed his temple. If not, we'll haunt it. Laughter mingled with wind, the Victorian glowing behind, a testament. In quiet moments, Jackson reflected, from shotgun blast to this, betrayal's forge yielding gold. Noah, his nephew, his son, his husband, love's evolution, human as breath. And in that harvest, they found grace. Not perfect, but profoundly theirs. Freaks no more, but family, etched eternal in Ohio soil.